Hello, I'm John Shepherd, and in this short video we're going to take a look at some differences in triple jump technique. Over Christmas I had quite a few of the group members who study in America back to train, plus a few others, so it's very interesting to look at the stages in development of their technique and to compare them with, for example, Jonathan and Julian, who train more regularly with me at home in the UK. As there was quite a lot of variation between the jumpers in terms of their technique, and there were men and women, it will be quite interesting to see and compare yourselves to how these guys jump and look at some of the key technical points that they worked on positively and some of the things that didn't go quite so well. Let's start with this slow-mo of Jonathan. One of the key aspects of triple jumping is the necessity to run off of the hop and to not block. What else is crucial is to extend the free leg away from the body before rotating the hopping leg round. The free thigh should be parallel to the ground and the hip extended. Positioning into the step contact, the hopping leg's foreleg needs to be extended out in front of the body before the foot is drawn back against the track surface. The free thigh then needs to be driven up and forwards and the hip extended into the step, and the arms need to be drawn back behind the hips and then to the front in order to assist the transition. Partly as a consequence of not quite getting the hop step transition right, Jonathan collapses inwards a bit as he goes into the step, and this creates forward rotation. Moving into the jump phase, the contact again needs to have a hip extended position and the foot drawing back against the track surface with the free leg drawn forcibly forwards and up into the jump. Okay, let's take a look at Stefan, who's not a regular group member, but who has jumped well into the mid to high 15-metre distances. Off of the short approach, Stefan's working probably too hard to generate sufficient speed, and then throughout the jump he's suffering from forward rotation, which in a way has been created from the hop mechanics, and also by the feathering motion in the step. His hop free leg swing is less than Jonathan's, and therefore he is going to lose distance and range on the hop. Forward momentum really begins to bite, and it's not helped in any way by the feathering of the foreleg, which actually pulls his body further forwards. And as you can see, the rotation continues into the jump phase and pulls the heels down prematurely. Okay, now let's take a look at Julian, and in doing so, in particular, we're going to be able to see a better way of going into the jump phase in particular. Julian's hop, I will say, needs more work and more extension, as I've indicated with Jonathan. Halfway through the step phase, we enter Julian's better technical execution. So there's still lots to work on. So in the step, we have a good thigh parallel to the ground position and the arms forward of the body and pretty well equal. I've added another effort, and there's going to be a freeze frame coming up over the jump phase, and you can really see the extension or the Cuban hang technique that Julian's attempting to utilise. The jump phase is often identified as the weakest often in the triple jump for men and for women, and getting off of the takeoff and holding the free leg away from the body whilst creating a shape that will combat rotation is often difficult, but Julian is halfway there. It's a shame he drops his legs on landing. Okay, let's now move on to Shola, who's a regular group member but spends his time in America studying at Memphis University. Now I will say, at this point in the training year, Shola hadn't done a lot of technical work, and if I dare say it, it perhaps shows, or not perhaps, it actually shows in his jumping. Firstly, he crouches and lowers and pushes into the takeoff for the hop rather than running off of the hop. The free leg drive is nowhere near adequate, and this will result in a compromised hop distance. Partly because of the imbalance created, there's a lot of rotation going through his trunk and legs thereafter. By throwing his arms up in the step phase, he's going to take his trajectory upwards and not forwards, and not stretch out the step phase. Perhaps oddly, given what I've just said, his extension into the jump phase of the two jumpers we've seen so far is the best, in that he reaches forwards. However, because of that rotation that ensued from the takeoff from the hop, he's still rotating in his torso, and it's thrown him really off balance throughout the entire jump. Just going back to Jonathan, you can see a much smoother, linear transition throughout the phases. Now let's move on to the women, Sarah and Alison. And here's Sarah having one of her first attempts at the triple jump. And for a first attempt, it's pretty good. Perhaps because she's predominantly a long jumper, the drive from the hop and the free leg is very effective, and there's also a pretty good step phase and a reaching and clawing throughout the phases with the forward leg and a balanced torso position. More work obviously needs to be done, but it's a very good start, and one of the key characteristics of Sarah's jumping is her tall position throughout the phases and working from stiffer legs and joint angles. Trying to hold an upright torso and slow the movements down throughout the phases is key for the triple jump, as is elongating the arms when using a single arm action, or getting them into the right position and keeping the length when doing a double arm action. Okay, to conclude with, let's take a look at Alison, and the main issue with her technique is not so much the technique, but rather the positioning of her hips as she approaches the board and throughout the phases. That length of leg that Sarah has, i.e. in terms of creating a greater stiffness, is not there throughout Alison's phases, partly due to the fact that she is sitting a little bit on the contact and in her running. Although on this particular effort it's not too bad, as it's something that we've been working on. However, there are some other things that I do want to pick up on. As with the other jumpers, there's not enough free leg drive and the holding of the free leg after the takeoff from the hop. There's also potentially too much of a scissoring action between the free leg and the hopping leg rather than a rotational one. Now there's another rotational issue in that in the transition from the hop to the step, the near side leg, as you're watching on the video, the one behind the body, moves towards us out of the screen, and that's creating rotation. There you go, you can see it just there. Now I'm going to suggest that that might be a manifestation of the arm action and the lack of balance between the arms in the step, in that if, for example, a more symmetrical arm action was used rather single or double, it may counteract the rotation and throw the body back, or not throw it, but keep it in alignment. Hopefully the information I provided in this video, by way of looking at some of the jumpers in my group and their technical points, the things they're doing well and the things they're not doing quite so well, will help you and your jumping also. The key things about triple jumping are to run off of the hop and to drive off of it with the free leg extending well in front of the body. This will enable your hopping leg to rotate round and to the front and create a much larger arc. Common to the step and jump contacts is the need to wait for the contact, to extend the hip, then the foot, and to pull it back. You also need to have a balanced upright torso and get your arms into the right place. Now this is easier with a double arm action compared to a single one. However, if you do use a single arm action, there's a need to make sure that the arm swing is balanced and equal to both sides of the body. When starting out triple jumping, it's a good idea to try to get each phase equal, so around about 33%. After you've got more confident and your techniques began to settle down, you can then work on whether you're going to be more of a hop dominant or jump dominant jumper. One thing that will obviously help you as a triple jumper is to be optimally and specifically conditioned. You require great eccentric capability, i.e. the ability to withstand force on those landings, and therefore you need to work on that. Working on the technique of the contact and the foot movements will also pay dividends in the long run. It doesn't always go right, but if you work on the elements that I've been talking about in training consistently, then you'll give yourself every opportunity to jump as far as you can. And remember that it's a long process. You're now looking at some of the guys in our group jumping for the first time this year in 2019. And despite running well into the takeoff in both occasions, they don't actually time their jumping correctly. That competitive timing comes with repetition and more competitions. Do subscribe to the channel and good luck with your training and competitions.